do the same thing. And then they freak, and then they can't answer then they're done. So, but we'll talk about some strategies, but that's the problem.
Yeah, I've been seeing online, of course, we have some new students who are graduating like every several months, but then we also have the people now who are like, oh my God, I can apply for that compact license, but I have to have my alphabet soup in order. So now they're scrambling to take the MBLEX, as soon as they can. That way they can have the required tests that they need in order to have that compact license. So that's when I started seeing more of a people getting in freak out mode about it.
And haven't done a test in a long time. And I have a PowerPoint that whether we share it or not, I need to see who's on the call and what they need. Sometimes people just need a pat on the back and where to go for information. You just never know. I have a 7-hour MBLEX exam that I sell through this.
Oh God.
But most of the time I just freak when I take a test. What can I do about that? So
do you have any stats on how many people are passing the first go around? Or
the last I looked, it was 67%.
Okay. I told my mentee a couple months ago, I said, look, I really hate to be the one to tell you this, but the worst that can happen is you fail it and you have to take it again, and you just take it as soon as you can.
Yep, that's what I tell everybody. So I tell my own students that. It's just the way it is. And there's a lot of other factors that are feeding into people's fear and anxiety and that sort of stuff around it. And you gotta just be okay failing the first time if that's what it takes.
I see some of the questions that you post and I'm like, oh God, like I don't know if I would have answered it correctly, but like, so you don't have any sort of idea of trending now? Is it more, it's just totally random, right? It's not like super anatomy heavy or like super ethical heavy at any given point.
I'll show the website for the Federation where they can go and find all that. It's standardized to 5 or 6 content areas with 10 to 11 questions in each area. It's pretty like I say, pretty standardized, but people don't think to look where all the information is at, and so they don't know where to go get it. And so that's one of the things I always show when I do one of these things for somebody is, here's where all the information is.
Speaking of somebody, we do have a couple people here with us. We have iPhone, so I'm not sure.
iPhone, and I see Jade.
I see iPhone, Jade, and Kim. So y'all are welcome to jump on and ask any questions. I'm just kind of here helping to facilitate, but I don't know anything about this exam besides I took it straight out of school like 15 years ago. So we're here for you guys to help y'all. Any questions?
4 minutes too,
Oh yes, we did hop on a little early. Oh, I like these early birds.
Oh yeah.
Usually what I like to do as well is I just like to ask people like, where are you right now? Like what's going good in your life? I know everyone's stressing out about this test, but like what's something that's actually going pretty good for you right now? Did you just get your oil changed? Did you get a nice fat tip? Did you get a new client out of nowhere? Like, to celebrate the wins, not everyone's possible.
It helps me if I have a little introduction. I know if they're right out of school, if they've been out forever and now they find themselves wanting to take the MBLEX for some reason. So that helps as well. So, a little introduction is nice. And I don't know that everybody knows who I am either. So, I can start off with that. So
Sandy's a badass and she writes textbooks. So she is the authority. And if we mention any of your books, I can put them in the chat box so y'all have access to that. But yeah, Sandy, come on, let's hear you brag on yourself. I love to hear people brag on themselves. Let's go, let's do it.
All right, I'll do it. I've been a massage therapist for over 45 years, and I still see clients. I'm pushing 70. I've owned a school and do most of, my son and I do most of the teaching here in Michigan for 36 years. And I have written entry-level textbooks for 28 years now. So one of the books I write is an MBLEX review guide. And I have volunteered for every organization at some level. I'm active in behind the scenes. I prefer to work on a committee level or behind the scenes, but I'm active in almost all of the organizations at some level. I have to stay current. I have to. I'm starting a revision cycle for the textbook. It'll be the 8th edition.
Yeah. I was a little intimidated to like reach out to you at first until Stephanie was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna be in a Zoom room together. And I'm like, with Sandy Fritz, like, what if she hates me?
I'm pretty easygoing. I mean, I'm opinionated just like everybody else, but
you're so generous with your knowledge, and you really take a lot of time in your post to like mentor people, whether they agree with your viewpoint or stats or whatever. Like, you're obviously taking a lot of time to educate people and steer them in whatever direction they may be going. And that's a really tough position to be in,
I've made I have a passion for people moving into the profession and trying to figure out where they belong, how they best work. I like to cut through all the BS.
You can curse on Sam. Badass body workers. Come on, you can curse on here. It's all right.
There are a lot of belief systems out there. I don't like anybody taken advantage of, and there's so much misinformation too that I think sometimes people get taken advantage of. So I appreciate that, Rebecca, that I try to do that. The platform I use is Facebook. I know that there are a lot of other ones, but
You're not on TikTok yet?
No, I haven't done TikTok yet. Yeah, but that's still the one where you can do a more lengthy. Facebook is. One of these days, I'm learning to do Facebook Live. That's my new.
Don't ask me for advice. I mess it up like at least 80% of the time. So I'm still trying to figure out this tech thing.
Let's see who else is on the call. Everybody knows who you are.
I would hope so. I'm just your typical trailblazer and ringleader and troublemaker and supporter of all people body workers trying to thrive instead of just be in survival mode all the time like we are. And I love all the new students and the new crop of people that we have post-COVID, because they've all realized how important self-care is, and they have a completely different perspective. And it's just amazing to see all these new like fresh therapists come out with a completely different, unjaded, not burnout mindset. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here, to help take y'all under our wings so y'all have some guidance and support. So that's what I do. And I've been a massage therapist for 13 years. I haven't been alive as long as Sandy has been teaching. So I'll be 33 in February. I'm an Aquarius. Got to disclose my zodiac. What are you, Sandy?
I'm Cancer.
Yes. Okay. That explains a lot. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I only have experiences with male cancers. So
I'm definitely the homebody. I used to travel a ton. I've never liked to travel. I've got some underlying anxiety, and I also have since about 60, I've had some vision loss with glaucoma. So now I have an excuse for not traveling because I can't see where I'm going.
Well, I figured you were a homebody whenever you dropped the word PowerPoint earlier. But I feel you. Actually, my vision is like, good vision does not run in my family. I've already had LASIK did not help hardly for like maybe 2 years. My it keeps getting worse and worse every year. My prescription's getting worse. So I'm like, I'm just gonna travel now while I can see, and while I can do shit, and I'll figure everything out later.
So
So
why don't we have the other 4 that are on the call? Why don't we see where they're at and what's going on with them?
yeah, so I did pop into the chat. iPhone has a name. Her name is Dana. Hello, Dana's iPhone. Her and her phone are from St. Louis. That's in Missouri, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she's taking the MBLEX in December, so right around the holidays. That's gonna be fun. Then we have Jade, and she's taking her MBLEX in 2 weeks. So yes, coming right on up for her. And I said, you mean you're passing it in 2 weeks? And then Kim is from Riverside, California. I'm not sure if that's in the north or south part of California. And she just finished her 500 hours on February 28th. So yeah, we have a nice, fun little crew here.
So you characters, if you don't mind unmuting, and then you can respond to a couple of questions I have that's going to help me out here a little bit. The way you are organized on my screen is Dana, Jade, Kim, and Sonia. Am I pronouncing that right? So what are your challenges? What do you think is your biggest challenge for the MBLEX exam? Can you share that with me so I know where we're going with that? Dana, you want to speak first?
And a good place to kind of help lead you to is, do you feel like you're more challenged when it comes to like more of the ethics or the anatomy, or is it just overall like anxiety about the test? Like what's going on? Why are you here?
I saw Kim unmuted herself. So Kim, can you give me some insight on where?
Yeah. I'm actually curious, I've here in California, a lot of people, it's not, MBLEX is not a thing, but I know that I guess this field is changing, and maybe eventually it will be something that's nationwide. So I just want to get on top of it. I guess my concern is, I know like for nursing here in California, that there's a lot of trick questions, and a lot of people talk about going for nursing exam, that the way the questions are worded, like they try and get you. So I'm curious, if it's something that to really be hesitant about, or if it's if my, I guess, education is adequate enough. I've taken, some anatomy classes in junior college, so I feel good about that. But I think, I guess it's just so broad. There's just so much information, so it's hard to hone down on any one thing.
So if I were to say to you, what does it feel like with the exam? What do the questions sort of look like, and how is the content presented? Is that what you're asking? All right.
Yes.
All right. Anybody? We lost Dana, it looks like. Maybe she'll come back on.
Maybe she dropped her phone.
And do Jade or Sonia have any guidance for me on where to go? Because we can go all over the place on this.
She says she has a 7-hour class on this, which is not happening right now, by the way.
And I tried that one. I'm doing for you. Kate, I see you unmuted yourself. So where are you at in this MBLEX process here?
My biggest challenge is anatomy, physiology, and kinesiology.
Okay. And when you say that's your biggest challenge, what do you mean by that?
I just have a hard time understanding them. And when I go over them and I think I get them, I can't remember them enough to answer questions when I take the practice tests.
Okay. And you've been doing some practice tests?
Yes.
What practice tests have you been doing?
I have an AMTA study app.
Yep.
And then I have an MBLEX. It's a blue book. And it's like the MBLEX 2022 practice prep.
Yeah.
And I've done those practice tests in there.
And that's where you always show up with some issues, is the anatomy and physiology.
Yes.
All anatomy and physiology, or is there a targeted area there?
Mostly muscles and muscle movements.
All right. Okay, you got 2 cents or 3 cents to put into this, Sonia? I see.
I'm agreeing with Jade all the way. I'm with
Yeah.
her. I don't understand the kinesiology. I don't know, sidetracked, I guess, and I always second guess myself.
All right. All right. So I think I can share my screen, and here's my suggestion. If you can, I'm going to put some links up in this PowerPoint I have. And if you just take a picture of them, you know, on the phone with you, you can get back to them and you won't have to re-find them again. So, all right, let me do this. Oops. Can you give me the ability to share screen, Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to find this
Or
tech.
be the host? Can you make me?
Yes, when I'm here we go. There we go.
But you got 2 more people in the waiting room, it looks like, too.
Project Fund. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to find the admit waiting room button, but it's
There it is. I can do it
okay. Thank you.
because I'm the host. Stop share. Let me do that again. I don't see anybody else that needs to be admitted.
Thank y'all for bearing with us. Neither one of us are extremely like friendly with the tech gods, apparently.
All right. So I actually do a lot of Zoom. All right, Rebecca, can you see something there that says MBLEX review?
Oh, yep.
right.
Purple and yellow, just like the state I'm from.
Yeah, or how to answer a multiple choice question without panic.
Oh God. I don't know. Like I would definitely panic. Like I said, I would definitely like probably fail if I try and take it right now. So for those that are just graduating school, if it makes you feel better, I always say I'll only remember the names of 5 muscles and 4 of them are quads.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember those, honestly. So it's okay. We're here for you. Let's do this.
We did the name and we did a major concern. If you want to just put in the chat the textbooks you used, that helps me know how information was presented. I'm familiar with all of the textbooks that are used, not just my own. Okay, the screen that's in front of you, it says Federation of State Massage Boards. You might want to take a picture of this if you can. The home screen is going to come up here in a minute, and the website is www.fsmtb.org. I can never remember any of these. I just put
I call it alphabet soup.
Federation of State Massage Boards into a, there's Dana. Dana's back. Federation of State Massage Boards, I just put it into a Google search and it'll take you to the home page. So Federation of State Massage Boards, that's your go-to for the MBLEX exam. All right, I am gonna open this home page, I hope.
Right. The planets are in Gatorade right now, so.
All right, do you see, Rebecca, do you see FSMTB with a couple of hands in a circle there?
I see your PowerPoint screen.
All right, then what I have to do is do that and then share again. And then, now do you see it?
Yes.
All right. So this will give you all the information you need to know how the test is put together. There are no trick questions. The writers of the questions do not try to get you to fail the exam. So there are 100 questions, 100, and they're divided up. I'll show you here in just a minute. But I'm going to be right up front with you and honest. You can't really study for the exam. The exam, it covers a broad area, and you know, the AMTA study app is the one that I hear people like really well. It helps. There is the question, you can do the questions in a lot of different ways. That's the American Massage Therapy Association study app. It's free. You go onto their website and you can download it. At least one of you has used it that we talked earlier too. What you want to do is after you answer the question, you look to see what your grade is, or if you passed it or not. It will tell you why the right answer is right and why the wrong answers are wrong. And 90% of the questions are taken from the review guide I write. So there's no reason for you to go out and spend money on the review guide. So I
Take it. Kind of like gauge, you know, where I'm at. Like,
so when you do practice tests, you got to know why the right answer is right, but even more important, you got to know why the wrong answers are wrong. That's how you figure stuff out. You've got to challenge yourself to figure out why the wrong answers are wrong, more so than if the right answer, you know, that you got the right answer. So just because you go through and you get the right answer, none of those questions, none of them are going to be on the actual MBLEX exam. None of the questions that you get in any practice guide, any review guide, any place on the internet, any of them, none of them are going to be on the MBLEX exam. They screen all of those out of there, but they do help you get used to a multiple choice question. They do help you do that. So right here, there's this tab that says the MBLEX right there. And it has a whole bunch of little things here that can tell you what you need. So you have to set up an account and then you apply. The school that you attended or are currently attending has to send over an authorization that you have done, a certain amount of education. You don't have to have graduated to take the test, but the school you're attending or did attend has to send that authorization that you have done X number of hours. Again, I'm not sure where everybody is coming from on this, but some people who have been out of school a long time may be wanting to take the test. And if your school has closed, then you just get a hold of the Federation directly and they'll tell you how to proceed.
and you have to do this too if you move from one state to another and transfer your license, because I had to go on the website and deal with all that mess. So
Yeah.
might as well knock two birds out with one stone, you know.
I'm going to skip down here to the exam content. And when you open that tab, come on.
So you can't see this, Sandy, because it was sent in a private message through the chat by accident, but Jade says that she's using the MBLEX test prep, the anatomy netters, theory and practice by Beck, and trail guide to the body. So
Okay, that should be all right. You know, that's those are the problem with the textbooks that people have used. Yeah, some of the textbooks that every question has to be referenced back to a textbook. But part of the problem is that some of the exam questions are old and they have been using, they are referenced back to a textbook that might be 20 years old and the information has changed. And that can feel a little confusing. So, but that sounds pretty good for what you just said there. So here's what your content outline is.
And the AMTA app as well, Sandy.
The AMT app does a good one. All right. They got all the test questions from me.
That's why you're here.
Let's open this up here.
Tell us which ones are on the next exam.
They randomly, it's a computer algorithm that randomly checks it, and it's always weighted like I'm going to show you right now. All right. So there are 100 questions.
Screenshot this too, guys.
11%, which means 11 questions, 11 are going to have something to do with anatomy and physiology related to the system structure or the symptom function. So 11. You see why I say you can't, it's hard to study for this, and if you drill down in a tremendous amount of detail, you're going to go crazy. So you could have a question that mentions a vein, and that would qualify for one of the questions in this category. Then you're going to have, you might have one question on energetic anatomy, polarity or something. Then you've got 12 questions that are muscles, bones, and joints. 12 of them. 14 questions related to pathology, which includes, what is it? How do you adapt? What is a caution? How do you adapt to a special population like pregnancy? Basic classes of medication. So there's 14 questions there. There's 15 questions related to kind of how you do massage, benefits and physiological effects of the techniques that manipulate soft tissue. Now they're switching from Swedish terminology, effleurage, petrissage, that sort of thing. They're switching over from that to the more generic terminology that was recommended by something called ELAP, the Entry-Level Analysis Project.
So what do they use instead?
So effleurage is gliding.
Oh, okay.
And you all want to learn to speak this way too, because it helps you with research. Effleurage is gliding. Petrissage is kneading. Friction, compression, but deportment is percussion. So the newest edition of Beck has the newest language. I have the newest language in my textbook. Susan Salvo doesn't necessarily have that language in it. It's embedded in there. Her book is more about Swedish massage, but she has the other terminology embedded. So the biggies are that I think would confuse you is effleurage means stroking, which is a gliding manipulation, and petrissage is a lift and a twist like kneading. Now you may find both. You might find one question with petrissage in it and find another question with kneading in it, because they're transitioning over. Now there's 17 questions on client assessment and treatment planning. So these questions could have words that come from anatomy or kinesiology or even pathology. You could have a question here that is a client comes in for massage with a sprained ankle, and they indicate that it is the deltoid ligament. How would you adapt the massage if this is in the acute phase. All right, so that you got to really think your way through these. There aren't any real definition questions.
So Sandy in the chat, Jay says, can we go over the new terminology again for the moves? And I'm gonna just type them down. I know you said glide.
Effleurage is gliding. Petrissage is kneading. And the other one that you might encounter is the tapotement. That's under percussion. Those are the only three, and you could find both. You could have one question that says effleurage and 4 questions later have another one that says gliding. So this is in here, you'd have this area, you'd have questions about the forms. And what an actual treatment plan is. Now, the exam is based on entry level, and it is to protect the safety and welfare of the public. So it's heavy on areas where you could hurt somebody, where a client could get hurt. So we also have the ethics over here. And they're not going to, a dual relationship, for example, they're not going to give you the definition of a dual relationship, having more than one professional role with the client. You're not going to get that. You're going to have a client recently moved into a different school district, and now your middle schoolers are on the same soccer team. What is the ethical concern? And so they might have something like dual relationship, scope of practice violation,
Man, I'm friends with some of my clients. I would have answered that wrong.
They might have breach of confidentiality. And then guidelines for professional practice here. This is a big category. This is where the safety and equipment, your body mechanics is here. Sanitation practices are here.
I imagine there's a lot of, or not a lot of, but at least some stuff about COVID.
No,
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. So it's just Facebook then. Okay, got it. Good to know.
terminology. So any questions about the content outline?
And screenshot it while it's there for y'all.
No,
do
thank
so.
you very much. I appreciate it. I feel a lot better about this. Thank you.
All right, so I am gonna see if I can get out of this. Stop share. Ta-da, here we are. All right. Now, can you see why when I say you can't sit down and cram? You can't sit down and cram for this exam. So if you are gonna, I tell my own students this, and I think I'm a fantastic teacher, and they learn out of my books. I tell them, just go take it. Just, do some due diligence, review some stuff, go take it and see if you pass. If you don't, now you know what it's like. And take it again.
And it is easier the second time around. I do want to also include too, like before you go in for your exam, please, God, do not go in with major anxiety and freaking out and dooming yourself to failure before you've even tried to take the exam, because I am like the queen of sabotaging myself, trust me. And that's not a good look on anyone. Okay, get some good sleep, like don't overdo it too much on the caffeine. Don't if you find yourself overthinking too much, like honestly, I always just go back to my first intuition, and that's usually the right one. We can't really, prepare like perfectly for this thing, but you could definitely at least make sure that you're sane and well rested and not anxious before you do go in and take the test. And margaritas after, duh.
Now,
Oh, Sandy, I do have a question for you. So whenever I took the exam like 15 years ago, I got my results right away, or they let me know at least pass
No.
or fail right away. So is that still the case?
yeah, you will not know which questions you got right and which ones you got wrong. You will not get a numerical score. You will know right then if you passed or failed. You will know that. If you did not pass it, they will give you a printout of the areas that you were strong and weak on, but no individual questions or anything like that. And and I'm going to tell you straight up, and this includes Rebecca, if you're talking to somebody that has taken that test longer than 3 years ago, it's a totally different test.
I want to go take it just to see where I'm at. I'm so curious. I never thought that I would spend my evening drinking sparkling water and taking this fucking practice exam.
So, if when you look at Facebook or something like that, and people say, the test, and it was this, you can't pay attention to that. The test is a work in progress always.
Just like me.
Yeah.
Just like us, I would hope. So Sonia did ask, and I'm assuming the answer is no. But whenever you take the test and you want to backtrack and change a previous answer, you can't do that, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
But you can assume if you failed, that's probably one of the things on your category.
Yeah, nope, you can't do that. And you have 2 hours, so you got about an hour and a half for the actual questions. You got about an hour and a half for 100 questions. And what I tell my students to do is practice a question a minute. And don't linger. If you don't know the answer, reading it 5 times is not going to make you any more, either you're going to know it or you're going to guess.
Just guess, see.
Just guess.
See for correct.
Oh, let your intuition work for you. And the one your eyes settle on is probably the right answer. Somewhere embedded in your brain, the information is there. You have to answer every single question. So you read it, you read all of the potential answers, you pick one, and you move on.
And you thank God that we don't have Scantrons anymore, because those were terrible. Oh my God. I would just like make a happy face and hope for the best.
So, can you see, Rebecca, can you see MBLEX study tools?
Yes.
Okay, this is what the Federation of State Massage Boards has for you to study from. One of you mentioned that you had the blue study guide. They've got a new edition out. I personally haven't seen it yet. Not this one. They just released it, and you can get it through an e-platform. And so it's about $35. And it's got a breakdown of how the content is covered. There's a 100-question practice exam, and there's tips for how to take the exam. They also have, you can get it in paper too. They also have this thing called MBLEX Check. Now, Rebecca, you could do this if you want to see what it's like. This is a mocked up exam.
You can just torture yourself if you want to.
This is mocked up. None of the questions will be on any of the actual MBLEX questions on the exam that you'll take for real. But this will mimic it. I just saw somebody and then I missed them. Where'd they go? my suggestion to this is that you take this 2 weeks or so before you go ahead to sit for the exam. And the questions are written like the exam questions. There's a couple of different kinds of questions. When I write questions for the textbook, I am writing them in a way that they are teaching and reviewing a segment of information. That's a different way of writing a multiple choice question. It's like a mini lesson. The MBLEX questions are not like that. They are about you manipulating information to make the best choice on an answer. So they're not going to have cluing in them. That's the one thing where somebody said, well, if I can go back, maybe I can get an idea of what's going on with it. There's no cluing.
A lot of hypotheticals.
You know, there's many story problems, you know, where you've got to take this piece of information and this piece of information, see how they relate to each other, and then what is the best answer that is actually solving the problem of the question. So this, I do recommend this MBLEX check. I think for $25, it helps people a lot settle down. I think it helps you settle down.
So if let's say if Jade and Kim get this that study check, are they going to get the same copies of the same study check, or is it going to be different?
It'll be different.
Oh, okay. That's good to know for people who might kind of want to ask each other some of the questions if they want to torture themselves further.
It's not going to be as different as the actual exams that you get when you go and take the whatever your MBLEX exam is going to look like. But they aren't exactly the same. There are a few question banks that they run through. Now, you can only take it once. That's why I say do this towards the end. You can only take it once, and it'll tell you, you know, where you did okay and where you didn't. And you can target your studying a little bit. There is also, if you want more specific information, there is the candidate handbook, and I would suggest you all download that right here. It's everything is on the Federation of State Massage Board's website. Download that and read through that. That will answer all of the questions that most of you have, and you're going to forget 3/4 of what I said, because that's just what people do.
Right.
But
Like after a massage, stretch or drink water. Okay. You know, they don't do it.
So,
Back in their car.
and they also have a ton of videos that you can go watch.
Okay. That's neat.
And so all of this is on the Federation of State Massage Board's website. All right. Everything you need to know is right there. How you apply, what it's like at the test center, what kind of ID you have to have. The Federation of State Massage Boards contracts the actual delivery of the exam with a professional test-taking company called Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE provides exam preparation and exam delivery for many, many occupations when it comes to licensure and certification exams, because there's a difference. And you're concerned about the licensing exam. They guide what's going on with this, and they want to make sure that nobody is cheating on the exam. There are professional test takers out there that take the exam and memorize it. And they'll have 2, 3, 4 test takers out there, and they'll take them in a rotating cycle, and they'll come back and they'll write it down, and then they'll give those questions out. That's illegal. The Federation just sued a group in Washington, D.C. for doing
Shit, I
it.
wish I could memorize that many questions at once. You know, my memory is not that good.
So there's security. There's a lot of security. You have to have 2 types of ID. It explains it in the handbook. You can't take anything in with you. Now, if they have the exam in Spanish, so when you apply, you can request to take the exam in Spanish. If you have a diagnosed learning challenge, or you are blind, you know, and can't see the screen, but it's got to be diagnosed with proof, then you can ask for more time or a quieter space. You know, they have to provide some adaptation.
Take
Okay.
it. Just fucking take it. Get it through it. Do it again if you need to. Like, let's get her done. Get her done, son.
All right. So that's the logistics of it. You can either blurt out a question or you can put one in the chat. I can see the chat over here before we move on to the design of a test question specifically. Has anybody got any clarifying questions or anything that they want me to take a look at or try to answer?
Yeah, I think we might have got most of it, but I do also want to drop in again for people who, for a couple of people who came on a little bit later. I was mentioning that you do have to take the MBLEX. You have to pass it in order to apply for the compact licensure that's happening in 2024. Unless you've already taken the NC alphabet soup, then I think they accept that as well.
Yeah, let me stop my share here for a minute. Let me talk about that a little bit. The interstate compact, a lot of misinformation out there about that.
I was on the webinar. Let's dive into it a little bit.
Yeah, so just a little bit, because our topic is, you know,
Yes.
on this MBLEX thing, but I know some people are scrambling thinking, oh my God, I got to take this MBLEX exam. All right. If your state already uses it, you're fine.
I know she's in California, so that's why I mentioned it.
If you are in California or Vermont or
Minnesota.
there's a couple of them that don't require the MBLEX exam, or they don't have licensure. The only time you're going to want to get an interstate compact license, it's a license over and above your state licensure. The only time you want to do it is if you're temporarily going to be moving around from one state to the other.
Like me.
If you're gonna go to Florida for 6 months and then go back because you know, and you live in Pennsylvania. Most people aren't even going to want it. So because they're not going to move around. So there's no
Telling people like, are you planning on being a dirty hippie like me? Like, what's going on?
if you're going to stay in your state, you know, you don't need it. And it's primarily being written for military families to be able to move easily. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, I got to get this. It's another license I have to get. It is not. You know, but if you are going to work in multiple states, but you're not going to move to another state. If you move to another state, then you got to be in compliance with that state. But if you're just going to work in another state for a couple months or whatever, then you might want to do it. And the state has to accept it. And so I wouldn't get worked up about it. The interstate compact. I've been involved with it from the beginning. I know where it's going. Has anybody got any other questions about
Well, not about that, but yes, Jade says, and I have the same concern too, because it says, I was told you can't get up and go to the bathroom during the test, but I have a small bladder and I worry about that. And I totally get it because I have to pee like every 30 minutes. I have to pee right now, but whatever. So what do they do? What do they do with that?
What you do is you tell the monitor, the person that is in there, that you may have to use the restroom now you won't get any more time, but if you need to use the restroom, they will tell you how to signal them. They will come and get you and take you to the restroom, and then you can go back.
So don't take too long on your questions and have to pee at the same time. It's one or the other, Jade. Sorry. Like we can't keep trying to make all these crazy compromises with this test. It's not gonna happen. We just gotta fucking take it.
But this is an example of weird stuff that's out there that makes people anxious.
Yeah.
So any other questions like that before we sort of kind of move on? Well, I make sure that you know where to find information. We good?
Yeah.
All right, Rebecca, you should see my yellow Federation of State Massage Boards thing.
I do. It's very highlighter yellow.
Yes, it is. Okay, now let's talk about studying after I just told you you really can't study for this. All right, you can embed information. And you want to have a broad sweep of information that you can call up in your brain as you're solving the problem posed in the question. So the way to study, and you can use the textbooks that you've got, or you can buy a current edition of a textbook. I'd rather see you spend money on a textbook than I would see you spend money on a study app or something. I look at those regularly and they are dated. And
That's
so,
good to know.
And if you're going to invest in a textbook, you want the most current edition, not an old one. So you can get my textbooks off of Amazon. You can rent them. They're cheaper to rent. You can get Soothe and Salvo the same way. You can get Beck. Those would be the three that I would recommend that you would take a look at. Okay, novel repetition. You got to look at the same information over and over and over different ways. That's why flashcards don't work. Because once your brain starts to recognize what that flashcard is, it's not going to work. But there
with affirmations sometimes. You write the same thing over and over and over again. And it's like, I don't believe this fucking affirmation. I need something different. This isn't working.
So I'm going to show you how to get novel repetition here in just a second. You need to not cram. You need to study for 15 minutes or so at a time and get up and move around.
Speaking
Your
of,
brain is not going to process anything longer than that.
we'll be back in 2 seconds.
All right. She's going to the bathroom.
Yes, I am.
I'll blame her. She's afraid she wouldn't make it through the. Once you do that study segment for about 15 minutes, then you need to manipulate the information. And one of the very best ways to manipulate the information is to write your own test questions. So let's look at how we can do this. Okay. One of the best things you can do is take advantage of YouTube. there is so much stuff on YouTube. And you can look at a 15 different YouTube videos about the same thing. You can listen to it, you can look at it, you can turn it on and off, you can do a whole bunch of stuff with YouTube. This is especially good for the anatomy, physiology, pathology. So I am going to click on one of these and see what we get. Come on. I'm going to show you some stuff.
Insider's view of Sandy's PowerPoint.
Yay for Dana. She uses my textbooks. Okay. All right, my dears. You should see hip bones anatomy or bones part 1. Do you see that? You see that, Rebecca?
Yep.
All right.
Making me excited for Halloween.
Use stuff that targets kids. Little kid, you know, because it's fun. All right. So here's one. This is Crash Course. Let's look at a different.
And that's also how I explain to my clients, Sandy, like anything I want them to absorb. I literally tell it to them like they're in the 4th grade, so they understand it, because they don't care. Our clients do not give a shit about anatomy. They don't care about the names of their muscles. They care about how they feel. So all this freaking out you're doing over the test, you don't have to like be that way with your clients. It's okay. It's okay.
Right. Let's look at this one right here. I am gonna click it. We'll probably end up with an advertisement or something. So just, all right, so let me open this one up.
I banish thee from Salem.
All right, can you see it? Rebecca, you're the one I see up there. All right.
Looking good.
All right, so let's look at some things that we can do with this. Over on the side here, once you find one, you've got 100 of them. You see them all over here on the side?
Yay, algorithm.
Yay, okay. So here's one. This one is 5 minutes. Whoop, there's Lori. Okay, now I'm going to play it for a minute, and then I'm going to show you what to do so that it's so that you can actually study better with it.
The muscular system is made up of over 600 muscles. While we won't be covering all 600 individual muscles in this overview video, we will be discussing the main functions of the muscular system, the 5 major properties, the 5 types of muscle movements, 3 types of muscles, and how all of this works together to make up what we know as the muscular system.
Okay. You see this little wheel down here that says settings? Right here.
Yep.
Click on settings, and where it says playback speed, speed it up. Speed it up to 1.25.
That's how I listen to my podcast, and my animal's barking in the background. Sorry.
Right?
The primary purpose for the muscular system is to provide movement for the body. Now, these muscles receive their ability to move through the nervous system. There are 5 major properties to the muscular system. Number 1, muscles are excitable or irritable. This means that they are capable of receiving stimulation and responding to stimulation from the nerves.
Okay, we've got it speeded up, and we have a nugget right here. It said that the nerves that feed the muscular system are excitable or irritable, that they are capable of receiving a stimulation or responding to a stimulation from the nervous system.
Mine are irritable right now.
All right. Right. What you want to do is put a funny little story on it, or come up with an example, or draw a little picture of an irritated muscle or something, so that you manipulate the information.
Okay, we plan
2. They are contractible. After receiving stimulation, they are capable of contracting or shortening. Being extended.
Then it's another thing. You use your body. They're contractible. They're contractible. This is how you get that novel repetition. You manipulate the information, and it's embedding in your brain in multiple ways.
So yeah, essentially you're just we're layering
Extensible
this.
means a muscle can be stretched.
You're layering. Exactly right. All right. So this one's extensible. So contract, extend, contract, extend. All right. And it doesn't matter. You're supposed, the sillier it is, the more kinesthetic you can make it, the more you draw it, the more you talk it out loud, the better it will embed.
In massage school, I used to draw the muscles like little dinosaurs because they all sound like dinosaurs. So I would draw these little Jurassic Park scenes and a flying trapezius like a pterodactyl. It was just ridiculous.
But
Stretched without damage by the application of force. With elasticity, a muscle is able to return to its original resting shape and length after being extended or contracted.
now you try to recall the 3 plus the 1 that's on the screen. So we got extensibility, we've got contractibility, and we've got, what's the last one?
Irritability was the first one.
Irritability, excitability.
Yes.
All right. And now we got elasticity.
The muscular system is adaptable in that it can be changed in response to how it is used. For example, a muscle will enlarge or undergo hypertrophy with increased work. But on the other hand,
So what's it called when a muscle enlarges under demand?
The-
Hypertrophy. So what a lot of people will do is they will put these on and then they just watch them through. Now that's also a strategy. So
it can go into atrophy or waste away if deprived of work. Now, let's look at the 5 types of muscle movements. Number 1, adduction.
now these movements, I think, confuse a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm still confused about them.
All right. You absolutely want to move yourself when you go through this. And so we got
Adduction is the moving of a body part toward the midline of the body. Abduction is moving a body part away from the body. Flexion means bending a joint to decrease the angle between 2 bones or 2 body parts. Extension is straightening and extending of the joint to increase the angle between 2 bones or body parts. And lastly, rotation involves moving a body part around an axis. The muscular system is divided into 3 main types of muscles, and each of these types can be moved by one of 2 ways.
all right. So let's review how you use YouTube. You speed it up. You listen to the same content. Let's look at another one right here.
Oh, a muscle song. That looks fun.
I do the muscle song.
Yeah. Let's add some music.
Is it up? Do you see a red screen?
Yes.
Okay.
You get the most from the game when you're having fun.
The skeletal muscle system is ready to contract. It's there when you need to fight and also to react. You have around 640, but there's no need to fear. We'll cover all the main ones from your front to your rear. There's the trapezius muscle from your neck down your back. This muscle has 3 portions, so let us discuss that. Superior, middle, inferior, that is what they're called. And around your shoulders is where they are sprawled. The deltoids top the shoulders, and each splits into 3 anterior, lateral, posterior fibers, as you can see. These muscles help you lift your arms up into the air, so you can wave your arms around like you don't even care. The biceps is a flexor made up of 2 sections, the short and the long heads, almost like reflections. The triceps is an extensor with 3 bits you can see. These are
What's an extensor?
It increases the angle.
Yeah, there you go. Get that
Oh.
from the other video. Not this one. All right.
So charming.
All right. So there are, especially for your anatomy and physiology, there's just tons of this. The more you listen to, the more you different YouTube videos you listen to and watch and mess with about the same topic, the better you're going to absorb it. And it works out really good if you have your textbook in front of you to that content area, because you can start and stop that YouTube video all the time. And then you go and see if you can find it in your textbook. So there are a couple on here, whoops, that are MBLEX specific, but they're old. I just want you to know that they're good, but they're old. And so, you know, I don't want you to let that confuse you, because you might they might not have gliding, kneading, you know, that kind of stuff. And there's also, which is really good, there is a full anatomy and physiology class, open and free, with this link right here.
So many awesome resources.
All right.
Yes.
And you know, there you go. All right. Any questions, comments, suggestions? Other
More songs.
there is a channel, a YouTube channel that has songs for every system.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna have to post that later, because I am so neurodivergent. I just learn in like all these awkward, weird ways. So like sitting down in front of a screen and doing all the note taking, it's like, oh shit, like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, we all have different learning styles. And for me, music helps. So
okay. The last thing I want to cover tonight with you is how a test question is written. We'll see if we can look at dissect a test question here. So can you see it? Test question?
yes.
Okay. So the question part itself is called the stem. And there are 3 or 4 possible answers that would solve the problem presented by the stem. On the MBLEX, they are conscious that people have some reading challenges and they get reading fatigue. So they don't write 3-paragraph story problems. You're usually not, I can't remember seeing a question that was longer than 4 sentences. The STEM is going to give you the problem. There won't be definitions. You need to, now you want to study definitions. And medical terminology helps do that a lot. And there's some, again, go back to YouTube, or you can just put into a search program on Google or Bing or whatever and say, free medical terminology study. You'd be surprised what you'll come up with. Then the writing the right answer is easy. It's writing the wrong answers that's really hard if you're going to write a question. The wrong answers have to be clearly wrong. And this is where I think people struggle, is that they get it down to where it's between this one or that one, and then they doubt themselves instead of going with their gut. Because sometimes it's hard to tell which one's the right answer or which one's not. Now, a hint for this is that if you're looking at an answer and you go, yeah, that one could be right. And then you look at another one and you look at it and you go, well, yeah, that one could be right because this is that. And if this was here, and if I knew more about that, if you start doing that, that one's probably not the right answer. If you have to try to talk yourself into it, then don't you
Try it.
okay? The answers, the wrong answers have to be plausible, though. They can't just be giveaways. You can't have one that is the answer to the question is avoid the lateral side of the foot. That goes along with that one I was talking about with the sprained ankle and stuff. So you got to know what a sprain is. You got to know what it is. In that question, a client comes in and they sprained their ankle 2 days ago. They were told that it was the deltoid ligament. Now you've got to go, what's a sprain? When is there, because you treat a sprain differently in the acute phase and the subacute phase. So you got to know what that is. So if it's 2 days, it's still in the acute phase. And then you got to know where the deltoid ligament is at. And it's on the lateral side of the foot. Okay? Down there on the ankle. So a good, correct answer would be avoid the area between the lateral malleolus and the heel. A good wrong answer would be avoid the area posterior to the calcaneus.
Oh God, that just went above my head. Both of those.
Another one would be use light pressure on the deltoid ligament at the knee. The deltoid ligament isn't at the knee, it's at the foot.
The deltoid? I thought the deltoid was up here.
So I'm talking about the deltoid ligament.
Oh my God. I do spa massage.
They will not have all of the above, none of the above, A and B, A or C. They won't have anything like that.
That's so confusing. So I'm so glad that they don't have that shit. So glad.
So they won't have these kinds of questions, but these kinds of questions are good to study with. This is a factual recall or a knowledge-based question. An example of this would be, what bone makes up the heel of the foot? And you just got to know these.
Oh, the answer is B. I know that because it's there.
Okay. The question I just gave you, which is more likely to be on the MBLEX, you would have to know what the calcaneus is, or you wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to figure it out. So these are good to study. This is more what you're going to get. Concept identification questions, comprehension. Which method would be most appropriate if the client requests that lubrication is not used? So now you got to know what these three methods are, and you've got to know which ones can be are usually used with a lubricant. See how the different layers of knowledge come on with this? And
How
then you
1 minute per question. God.
then you would pick. So do we usually, when we're gliding along, do we usually use lubricant?
Well, gliding with what? You're gliding with what? You know, like
Forearm, your hand, your forehead, I don't care.
on my forehead.
All right. So the problem is, what method can I use without a lubricant? That's the problem you're trying to solve with the question. Now, you can glide without lubricant,
Right.
but that's not the best answer. And you can need petrissage. You could without lubricant. But rocking, you don't have to use lubricant to rock a person. And so of the three, rocking is clearly the right answer. Even though, see how I would have to tell, but you can use, I've done gliding without lubricant. I've done that. You see how you're talking yourself into that one? Whereas rocking, I don't have to use any lubricant.
And I'm over here like, why is the client requesting stuff? Let me do my thing. What type of client is it? And I get like stuck down this rabbit hole, like
Do that. Don't go down a rabbit hole. Solve the problem of the question. You don't care why they don't want lubricant. They just don't. You don't care.
solve the problem. Okay, no over analyzing.
Yeah. So now here's how a story problem would look. This is your application. This is how you have to do some real critical thinking here. A client is taking an aspirin for osteoarthritis of the left knee. What precautions are needed for massage intervention? Now, the thing that people want to tie into this is the pathology. They're all thinking about arthritis, osteoarthritis, but that's not the problem. What's the problem in this question?
The knee pain.
Nope.
Oh, the medication.
The medication is the problem. What precautions are needed for massage intervention? Avoid any type of massage to the affected knee. That could be right, but it's a little extreme. Avoid the use of compression above and below the knee. Well, yeah, but I'd have to talk myself into it. Or straightforward, monitor pressure levels to reduce potential bruising. So sometimes people get twisted up because they're solving the wrong problem. This question is not asking you how you massage a knee that has arthritis. That's not what this question is asking. This question is asking, what do you do if somebody's taking aspirin?
Basically, do you know the side effects of this medication? Or
Yep.
not?
Yep. Okay. Now we want to have a little bit of question and answer about how you get tripped up on questions and, you know, for the next 20 minutes or so.
Like what type of questions, like how can I make my life go better?
So
Which essential oil helps my problem?
who overanalyzes the question and doesn't know what problem to solve? You can use your, you can put something in the chat, or you can use your hand up or whatever. Yeah, well, Maria, don't do that.
And I mean, I just did it. Like I literally just did it too, and
You did a perfect,
did a perfect job at like delivering on.
yeah, you
Plan
got,
that
you know, don't focus in on something that's not the problem of the question. Yeah. So so who thinks that they're not going to be able to figure out what that problem is because they don't know all the words? Like they wouldn't know what osteoarthritis is, or they wouldn't know what a calcaneus is, or something like that. Who's concerned that that might be the case? Anybody? So there, I guess so Maria's chiming in right here.
It's like, fuck it. I know why I'm here.
So medical terminology helps a ton. And that is where flashcards will help a little bit. And labeling activities for the bones and the muscles and joints. Labeling activities are pretty good. And games help a lot. Yet do not, Dana, I get after the nurses I work with all the time. Don't do that. Remember, this is an entry-level massage exam, not an experienced nursing exam. So I've seen nurses struggle because they do that right there. They over.
Was greater answer.
Yeah. So good self-awareness. Good self-awareness there, Dana. I'm pretty straightforward.
They
Don't
need to use a lot of trigger words and big words and stuff to trip us up. You know, not everybody is like very a focused thinker like me. I'm ADHD and I overanalyze. So like what you just said about how to break down a question and like understand what those words are that trip you up and that try to divert from the problem. Like I never am going to look at a test question the same, because usually I'm just like, I don't, why am I taking this stupid thing? I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like, it's anatomy of a test question. You know, it is.
Also you can put in games, muscle, learning muscles games, and they've got a ton of labeling activities and things where you can do with that. But what you want to do is, so let's say you want to brush up on the anatomy of the lower leg or the lower limb. You want to have 4, 5, 6, 7 different things that you're doing on that. And you want to mix it all up so that you hear it multiple times, a different voice. Sometimes you're stopping it and questioning yourself. Another time it's a game and you're messing with it.
It's sort of like whenever your kids never listen to you, but if your aunt tells you the same thing, then they listen. Sometimes you just got to hear it from the same thing from a different source.
Yep. So anybody else have an area that you just know that's how you trip up? You just know you do that.
I know the kinesiology was a really good one. I have a lot of time personally understanding the difference sometimes between kinesiology and the physiology or whatever. So all the movements, like for me, I know that would probably, yeah, for me be what I would assume I would be struggling with the most.
Yeah, there truly are some excellent YouTube videos. Now, kinesiology is different than muscles. Kinesiology is about movement. So kinesiology is the interrelationship between bones, joints, and muscles and how they work together to perform a movement. So a lot of times people think kinesiology is knowing where a muscle is. Now, don't waste your time memorizing attachments, but do pay attention to location and function of a muscle. So quadriceps, where is it located? It's on the front of the thigh and it extends the knee. Don't worry about the idea of it attaches on the anterior superior aspect of the issue. You know, don't do that. Don't waste your time on it. All right. Touch yourself and move it. Put your hand on it and move it. And when you're taking the test, do that. If I were in there taking the test, I'd be flailing all over the place because I want to do what the question is telling me to do. The client comes in and has trouble, you know, reaching over their head. I'm going to reach right over my head. You know? So, now, okay, what one thing that we talked about do you think helped you the most? Let's put that in the chat. What one thing that we chatted about this time through helped the most?
I know, I know for me, Sandy, it was definitely the just understanding how to actually read and process a question and how to like take out the clutter from it for sure, because I don't see things linearly and I will overanalyze until like it's 10 minutes later. So that applies to more than just the MBLEX as well. So I do appreciate that.
Very good. Anybody else got something that they thought? Understanding flexion and extension. I think, Maria, you're probably a person that has to see it and do it. And while you hear it, and again with the YouTube videos, you got to stand up and do what you're seeing demonstrated on the YouTube videos. You got to do it.
Got to sing along with it.
Okay, very good, Dana. How to use different sources for the same information. Okay, very good, Stephanie. Very good. You want to know where the muscles are, how they work together in functional groups. So if a question might show up with a person is extending their knee, and the quadriceps cramp, what muscle would be lengthening? And that would be the antagonist, agonist and antagonist pairs. You know, when I flex something, something's getting short and something's getting long. You know, that's a functional muscle unit. So you want to understand those relationships. And again, you know, there are so many good resources on YouTube for this kind of stuff. Not so good for the ethics and that sort of thing. That's harder. But for the sciences and the pathology and the medical terminology, now, when you do the ethics classes and some the ethics questions or whatever, choose the most straightforward answer. Don't talk yourself into, you know, yeah, but, or maybe.
Don't complicate stuff.
Yeah.
Just choose one place for dinner. Just stop comparing.
Or if, you know, well, I can't choose because I needed to know, you know, what
type of client it was.
Needed to know more information. They didn't give me enough information in the question. So I, you know, don't go there. You got what you got in the question You choose the best answer, which is the most straightforward. If you don't know for sure, the one your eye lands on, choose it and go.
Oh, this has been so great, Sandy. You're so valuable. We appreciate you so much.
Ta-da. Now, some of you might have thought you were going to get a class on muscles or something like that. And I certainly can do stuff like that, but that's really not what helps you.
I wouldn't have showed up. I hate anatomy, so.
So hopefully this stuff took some of the scary out of it. This discussion took some of the scary out of it.
And sleep and try not to be anxious. Do a little meditation or something.
Writing your own multiple choice questions. It is write your own multiple choice questions. It is so good. You will
that's a good tip.
so much writing wrong answers.
That's such a great tip.
All right. Anybody will have another question on anything? You know, I know a lot about a lot of stuff and I can come up with an answer even if I don't know.
Life.
Around a long time, and so I do know about stuff. So is there any quick answer stuff before we get done here? We got 5 minutes or so.
Again, lots of appreciation, Sandy. Thank you for giving us a piece of your brain in your PowerPoints.
Yeah. Rebecca asked, you know, and I said, well, sure, I can do that, because mostly it's just easing the anxiety.
Yes, and we can I think it'd be fun to do this on a, well, I say regular basis, but regular can mean anything, because I don't know how often people are actually graduating, so I would gauge it based on that. But yeah, I love doing stuff like this because we all have our different concerns in different stages. And
you recorded this. You can make, I'm fine with you making this recording available to whoever, you know, I'm perfectly fine with that. So that's something that you can share. All right.
good luck. Good luck on this test, on this alphabet soup test. You got it.
Congratulations, and know that not passing it is not failure. It's just a good dry run. All right.
And you know what? If it makes you feel better, I'll take the damn practice test with you. Like, I'm not immune just because I have a fan base. I'm not immune to being anxious about any sort of test whatsoever. So
take advantage of that test that mocks up the exam that the Federation's got. Take advantage of that.
And that's the up-to-date one, right?
Huh?
That's the most up-to-date one that you could recommend is.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay.
There you have it, folks. Go take the practice test.
Have fun. Oh,
good night. Thank you, Sandy.
Ta-da is my word. Ta-da.
Yes. Bye.
Do you want me to end it, Rebecca?
Yeah, I have it recorded to cloud, so it should automatically upload no matter what. And hopefully the tech guides will stay on my side. So.
Oh, that's right. We have a full moon tomorrow. I'm all into full moons.
That's a whole other Zoom chat, which I will invite you to as well, because we plan on doing that too. Full moon circles. That's a different story.
All right, everybody. The world needs massage therapists. So there you go.
More to come. Thank y'all so much.
Bye-bye.